Hello, and welcome to the Where to Start YouTube series. My name is Clyde Hampton, aka Champion Yogi, and this is One Raw Yoga Studio. I teach here on Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, my Ocean Wave series. Feel free to come down and join me, have some fun with me right here in this space. There's a beautiful view right behind you that you can't quite see. Today, we're going to be working with our stag leg forearm stand. Again, this is a 4-part series, and this is just step one. So we won't get into that stag leg today, but we will start working on what we need to do to start getting into that space, right? We want to make sure that we do everything with intention. So let's set our intentions together right here. My intention is to help you learn better awareness in your body and build more strength into your body. That's going to help you out all over your yoga practice and all over your life. Being able to do inversions give you a space of balance, right? It gives you that inversion, which gets your hips over your head. Your heart gets a little bit of a break for a little short moment of your day, as well as being able to be better balanced. Being better balanced gives you the ability to not fall very often, or when you do fall, to have more control over your fall, so your injuries are reduced to none, if very little, right? So with that being said, let's talk about it. We want to make sure your body is safe. So with that being said, you want to make sure those shoulders are nice and open and injury free. If you're feeling any tightness, stagnance, injury, sharp pain into your shoulders, your head or your neck, your core muscles, your spine, stag leg, forearm stand is not going to be a space for you right now. But take the time, go get checked out, do your recovery, get back to a healthier space, and then let's come back and try this out. We're going to start where we always start, working on our warm-ups. We're going to have to warm up our shoulders today because that's a big part of that forearm stand, especially the stag leg with the back bend. We're going to work through our forearms, keeping them down into the mat and keeping that strength of the elbow staying in and the hands not going out. We're also going to work with the head and the neck a little bit, core muscles a little bit, and the hips just a little tiny bit. So without further ado, let's get started. We're going to come on down to your mat, find your comfortable seated space. If you want that crisscross easy pose, you can do that. Legs out long, you can do that. Sitting on your knees, you can do that. Whichever one is most comfortable to you is the one that you should do. The hands, the wrist, not super important here today, but slightly important. So it's always a good opportunity to just take them palms together, lengthen the fingers, and roll them all around to start waking the wrist up. This is a good way to just wake up the arms and the body and things of that nature. So go ahead and give the wrist a few breaths like this, maybe about 3 minutes of just rolling the wrist around, waking up again, shaking the wrist out, flipping them over, maybe coming to a tabletop and rolling around over the wrist. And you want to make sure you get all the sides, clockwise and counterclockwise, right, to warm up your wrist. Then after that, we're going to start working into the head of the neck. So we want to take some rolls into the neck. Always, when you're taking those rolls, you're trying to create as big of a circle as you can. My suggestion is to bring your chin down into your chest, roll your ear so it's on your shoulder, and then roll the back of your head to your back, and then the opposite ear to the opposite shoulder, and then bring it all the way down to your chest. Take a few times around the left, a few times around the right to make sure you really open up. Also to the left and to the right. Again, we're going to pull through, and we're working with the spine, so we always want to be gentle to the neck, and a few times up and down as well to make sure you're not getting any injuries, any spots in there that has some attention that needs to be addressed before we get into these. Core muscles. We're going to come to our tabletop position. Shoulders over the wrist. We'll start with those cat cows because they're so good for all of these different inversions. So we'll take an inhale, let the belly sink down and the gaze rise up. And then exhale, let the belly rise up and the chin comes into the chest. Make sure you keep everything nice and stacked. Shoulders over the wrist, hips over the knees. Everything is wide as your shoulders. Hands, knees, and feet are all as wide as your shoulders, equally spread apart. And just take the time to work through the cat cow. Again, acknowledge these hips as they rotate forward, and acknowledge those hips as they rotate back to find that good space. Taking the gaze all the way up, and then bringing the chin all the way into the chest so you can look at that belly button and find that comfortable space. We're going to have to open the shoulders into this. So a good puppy pose is a good space to practice. You can do puppy pose with a block if you need to. If your shoulders are really tight, you may want to work with a block until they become a little more loose. And if your shoulders are already very open, then feel free to just take your puppy pose. You want to stack your hips over your knees. Here's my block right here. I'll show you that first before we get started. And then with your hips stacked over your knees, a lot of times when we come to puppy pose, the hips will try to help us out a little bit by shifting forward. So as we start to bring ourselves down to the mat, the hips come forward, and then we're able to find ourselves down onto the mat, right? But we don't want that. We want the hips to stay stacked right over those knees and not move. And you're going to use your block. And remember, your block has 3 different settings, right? So this is one height. This is a separate height. And this is the highest height of your block. You can also use 2 blocks here as opposed to 1 block if that height doesn't quite work out perfectly for you. Take your hands all the way towards the top of the mat. And then right here, you're just going to try to exhale and bring your chest down towards that block. Start to keep those hands long, roll those elbows together, and you're trying to pull your biceps to come back behind your ears, right? So you're just trying to lower your head down so your biceps come behind your ears. Again, your block can come right underneath your chest to melt down to help you find that space. This is going to give you that back bend that you're looking for. And the hips are nice and high, and these shoulders are getting that good stretch. Now, if you don't need your block anymore, you start to melt down, you get the biceps to come back behind the ears, and that's going to start to open you up and give you in that nice, comfortable space to be able to stretch. Again, anytime you're holding stretches like this, holding them for about 3 to 5 breaths is a good space. Come out of it nice and slowly. Take your time. Give yourself the space that you need and be gentle with your body. After these warm-ups, it's time to get ready to work on that forearm stand. Your forearm stand is going to start by bringing your hands down. So the most important thing that we're going to talk about today is how to get the forearms down to the mat, how to keep the hands in a good, comfortable place. When you bring your forearms down to the mat, you want your palms to be down. Your elbows are going to be about as wide as your shoulders, which means your hands also are about as wide as your hands. A very common issue in this practice is when you start to go into that forearm stand, these hands will slowly start to creep into each other. And the reason for that is because a lot of the weight is sitting into the elbows, and we're kind of free with the hands, and they're just able to slide around. You want to make sure you're being intentional about pressing those hands down so everything stays in place and doesn't start to slide together and bring you to that poor alignment place. You need to be able to keep that good alignment so that you can pull your head through the arms, okay? So when you bring those forearms down to the mat, pressing firm into those palms, press those palms down to the mat to keep that comfortable space. You'll just tuck these toes under and lift your head up nice and high and look at your toes, okay? So as you tuck your toes, lift your hips, and just look at your toes right here. And then just bring it all the way back down. Knees come, untuck the toes, and have this comfortable space and breathe for a few seconds. We're going to do that again. Same thing. You're lifting those hips up, rolling back, and you're looking at the toes. And then right here is when you're going to start to practice to work on this space right here. So you got the hips up now. You got the forearm stand. Again, check on those fingertips to make sure that they don't come together. Also check on those elbows. Sometimes the elbows will pop out towards the side and even off the side of the mat. And that's another reason why the fingertips start to come together. You want to keep everything intentional, press down into the mat. And as you tuck your toes and lift your hips, look through, maybe take a step forward and pull your face towards those toes. And that's going to start to open the shoulders up. Step back, knees down, take a quick break, relax and recover. That's going to start to give you that good back bend. That's going to give you those good open shoulders so you can really open up and find that stag leg forearm stand. Again, keeping those hands under control, keeping those elbows nice in a comfortable space, evenly apart, just as wide as your shoulders are, is the real goal for step 1. Is being able to find that forearm stand, open those shoulders up, and pull your head through. I want you to be able to get those biceps to come back behind the ears. A good practice for this as well is just coming right to your hero's pose. If you need a little bit of support for your hero's pose, always sit on your block. Or if you don't need support, you just choose another space to sit in. That's also fine. But getting those biceps to come back behind the ears is how you really get that pull through. So as you reach your hands all the way up, remember your shoulders are naturally going to shrug up by your ears because you're reaching your hands up. So don't let that happen. Try to relax them down, and relaxed shoulders are going to give you the ability to open those shoulders more. So you don't want those strong engaged shoulders. You want those muscles to relax so they can be more flexible, and then you can open and pull through them a little more. Try to work on pulling those biceps back behind the ears. Once you pull them back to the maximum point, it's like everything in your body is going to be telling you, bring them back forward, bring them back down, right? You need to work on being able to hold that. You need to work on being able to be strong into that space and making that space more comfortable. So bringing those hands all the way up, nice and relaxed, and then exhale, bring the palms down in front of you. Inhale, bring the hands all the way up behind the ears. Exhale, bring them all the way down. This is a good rep. Again, work on that. 3 to 5 sets. 10 reps, Work on that over and over to start to open those shoulders. Keep those shoulders relaxed down and melt it down towards your hips. And don't allow yourself to be nice and tight into those shoulders, because that is going to stop you from being able to open into your space. That dolphin pose is the first step to being able to get to that stag leg, right? We're not trying to get the feet in the air today. We're not trying to get to that balance today, but that is an inversion just to have the hips over the head. So we're already starting to get those benefits. Make sure you can pull the head through the arms to find your comfortable space, and then you'll be working your way towards that stag leg forearm stand. I want to thank you for joining me for step one, day one of Where to Start Yoga series. If the YouTube video wasn't enough for you and you still have a little bit more confusion, feel free to hit me up on any of my social media sites, TikTok and Instagram and Threads and Facebook at c.hamp.ironyogi. I'm here to help you. We'll set up a private session, work with what's going on in your body, and get you on your way to your stag leg forearm stand. Thank you. Have a good day.